Hey there, guys, and happy Thursday. I am so delighted that you are able to join me again this evening. Would like to give a thanks to all of the supporters, viewers, and guests, because you know we couldn't do this without you. I am your host, Shayrenee, and this episode of the Indie Spotlight Special Edition Thursdays, happening on Instagram Live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is a stellar one. Saxophonist, arranger, and composer, Mr. Christopher Mcbride is coming on. And when he comes into the room, I'm going to invite him to the camera and we will start the interview. I also would like to tell everyone, please keep the comments at a minimum so that we do not distract our guests during this interview, but you can ask all of the questions you want in the question box below. I'll try to get to everyone's questions. And if we have any technical difficulties, I will start the live over again. So right now we're just waiting for our guest. Oh, and there he is. Hey there. Okay, so I'm going to invite you to the camera. Here we go.
Hey,
Hi. Hey there. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Great. I'm doing good now.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. All
I
right.
wanted to first say thank you for being so reachable so that we can do this interview. So that made it very well.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'm glad you reached out. I'm glad you. Glad I'm usually interviewing people, so I'm
Oh,
always
wow.
I'm always shocked when somebody wants to interview me.
Yeah.
So
So I'm glad you're able to sit down with you're able to sit down with us. So I want to ask you, what was it like first growing up in Chicago?
what was it like growing up in Chicago? I mean, Chicago's a dope city. It's my hometown. It's one of my favorite places in the world. On Earth.
Hmm.
And actually, it's funny because it has a reputation of being a very violent city and things of that. But I never really experienced that when I was growing up in the city. And I grew up on 54th and Paulina, for my childhood, at least until I was about 8 or 9 years old. And I didn't get into the most fights till I got to the suburbs. You know what I mean? Like my block was super cool. The people were cool. It was
Hmm.
a sense of community. At least like I said in that block on that neighborhood. So I mean, growing up in Chicago was dope. And it taught me a lot about just how to navigate this world. It taught me um, a lot about different music. It was all types of different music all over. I grew up in a black and a Spanish community, so it was I heard a lot of Earth, Wind and Fire. I heard a lot of different Spanish music, different mariachi bands and stuff like that. So um, it was a eclectic mix of music. Plus, my dad is from Rotan, Honduras, so I heard a lot of reggae growing up. A lot of reggae, a lot of Bob Marley, a lot of Peter Tosh, Third World, Black Uhuru. Like so. But Chicago was and is a dope city, man. That's the hometown always. So.
Awesome. So can you tell people where they can reach you at on all your social media platforms?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. CR McBride music is everything, but I
Okay.
mean, Instagram, CR McBride music, Facebook.com. If you /CR McBride music, that's my fan page on Facebook, Saxophonist Christopher McBride. Twitter, CR McBride music. LinkedIn, CR McBride music, and it go beyond that. My Venmo, CR McBride music, my Cash App, CR McBride music, my PayPal, CR McBride music, Google Pay, CR McBride music. I'm taking all forms of currency and fan. Also I do also have a YouTube page as well.
Yes.
And that is Christopher McBride. If you type that in, type it in, you can subscribe to my YouTube page, and occasionally I put out content. And also, most importantly, if you really want to support in the best way possible, the best way is my Patreon page. For as little as $3 a month, I put content up, different sets that I do with my group or with another band. I'll put that content up as well, and you can only see that on Patreon. So, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to take it a little bit back to 2012 when you released. Is this your first album? Is this Quarter de Force? Is that how I say it?
Yeah, Couture de Force.
Oh, Couture de Force.
Yeah,
Okay. I was about to say, how am I supposed to say this?
Nah, it's all good. I was playing off the Tour de Force thing, and then so that album is funny. That was I was playing with Marquise Hill, this trumpet player at the time. He was writing a lot of music. One of the baddest trumpet players in the world. Shout out to Marquise. He was writing a lot of music, and he had just released the album. I was like, man, I feel like I should start, writing music and kind of developing my voice with compositions. So I started to. I'm just gonna turn my computer down because it's just gonna keep giving me announcements that I do not need right now. So I I started writing music. I've always been a person, especially I was in St. Louis in 2012 I was back in Chicago, but at the time when I started writing this music, I was in St. Louis, and it was a new environment. Hadn't moved from Chicago. It was like my first time out of the city in 26 years, and so I was having trouble sleep. Plus, I was teaching full time at a school, so I was just having trouble sleeping. Yeah, I was a full time I was doing elementary school in St. Louis, but yeah, I was a full time elementary school teacher for a year out there, and so I was just having trouble sleeping. So at night I would just write music. I would teach all day, come home, practice. Practice as much as I could, and then go to sleep for a little bit, and then whenever I woke up, I would just write music early in the morning. Usually, so actually the first song is called "Restless Thoughts." I think I wrote that. That was after about several 3 a.m. wake ups, and I was like, okay, I should just write something. And so, I wrote that music in 2010, 2011, and then I think I recorded it in 2011, and I released it in 2012. And the name of that CD, the name of my group at the time was Couture de Force. There was a play off of Tour de Force, and then Couture, and I'm pretty sure I'm saying this wrong with French, but which is one of the reasons why I changed it. But it was Quata, which is it meant quartet. So it's like
Okay.
Couture de Force. But then I started using trumpet. I started hearing trumpet in my music as well, and I was like, well, it don't make no sense to call it Couture de Force if I'm gonna have 5 people on stage. And so then I started thinking about I was like, okay, well, what's some other options? So when I moved to New York, I
I'm
looked.
sorry to butt in. You moved to New York a year after that, right? In 2013?
Yeah. So I released the album in 2012. I was doing music full time for a year in 2012, and then after that, me and my spouse at the time moved to New York. And
Right. And so I'm sorry I don't mean to interrupt.
no, that's okay.
After you made after you had your group, you changed the name into The Whole Proof. Is that
Hmm.
correct?
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah. So Proof. another word for experiment, you know. And I was experimenting
Mm.
with different lineups. I was experimenting with different sounds. You know, I was like, well, if I want to add guitar for one night, or if I want to add organ or percussion or whatever, I can do that if I have a different name. So that's how the whole proof came about.
I like it. I like it. And I see that you work with like Solange Knowles
Yeah,
and Neo and Talib Kweli.
yeah.
Tell me about that.
I mean, most of those were one-off dates. There's
Okay.
definitely a couple that were on there, but most of those were one-off dates. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, man, it was great. I mean, got a call. I would get a call from uh, the Solange thing happened. I was actually in New York, but I ended up working with her in Chicago because what happened was that was in 2016. I want to say. I think it was 2016. She was playing the Pitchfork Festival in Chicago. Shout out to all the cats at Pitchfork. That's a great festival out in Chicago. She was playing that festival, and um, I think Braxton Cook's brother um, is the MD for that group, and so he hit me up asking if I knew anybody in Chicago, and I happened to be in Chicago, so I was just like, well, I could do the gig. So got all the details, and did a couple rehearsals, and did the performance. I was able to hire a couple of my friends too that I knew, some incredible musicians who are still in Chicago. I was able to hire some people for that, and recommend some people as well. So it was just a great experience. Solange is mad cool, very much, uh, yeah, just very chill, very calm with everything, and really counted on her team to pull the vision through. And I thought I thought we were able to do a great job in that endeavor. Yeah. I mean, everybody who I've worked with, Neo, again, mad cool. I worked with him. I was playing with the J.C. Hopkins Biggish band in New York, and we did the Tribeca Film Festival. So I got to work with Neo, which was super dope, and Talib Kweli. In Chicago, I played with this band called Versatile. Um, and Talib was passing through. We were hired as the band, so that's how I got to work with Talib.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. So, do you have any upcoming performances, whether virtually or live or anything? Are you on tour or anything like that?
Well, we've been through this pandemic for
Yeah.
a good part of the year now,
Yeah.
and things are slowly opening up.
Mhm.
So I do have some performances with my band coming up that I'm excited about. One of the performances I'm playing July 3rd at Dewey's Lounge in Massachusetts, in Springfield, Massachusetts. I've never been there before, and I got invited out to play with the whole crew. So we're gonna be out there rocking July 3rd in Massachusetts. So if anybody knows anybody from Massachusetts, send them my way. Uh, and then the 24th and 25th, I'm working out this little mini tour in the Illinois area. I'll be playing in Bloomington, Illinois on the 24th at this club Jazz Up Front. And then after that, I'm playing in my hometown. I'm playing in Chicago, in the Chicagoland area, but I grew up, my formative years, like high school, was in Homewood, Illinois. So I'm playing in Homewood for the first time since high school, July 25th, and those tickets are going pretty fast. So yeah, I got a couple dates coming up. I got some dates with other people, other musicians, and some of those things are mostly private, but a couple of them are in town. And of course you can check social media out. If I do have any up and coming shows with people in town, I always post on my social media. So yeah, but I've been grateful to still get opportunities during the pandemic. I got to play a little bit. I mean, like I said, everybody it's slow for everybody. We're kind of just getting back to it. But I've had some opportunities to play, and now that things are opening up, I've been able to get some calls for things to play. So it's been great.
That's great. That's great, and I wish I could like make it to one of those. I wish I could make it to one of those performances. Sound because I know like a lot of people in the public we are dying for live music and
Right.
experience with live music.
Now you're
So
you're
do you,
you're in Philadelphia, is that right?
yes, I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Shout out to Philly, man. I love that city. A lot of man, some bad cats out there, just some killing musicians, and just the city in general, man. The people, show a lot of love whenever I do play out there. I've been out to Philly once with my group, and got to play a little bit. So man, just shout out to Philly. I love Philadelphia and the good vibes. It reminds me a lot of Chicago in a lot of ways, and some incredible musicians.
Wow, wow, that's awesome. So are you currently now in New York? That's where you reside at.
I'm currently living in Harlem. I was living in Brooklyn for the first 8 years that I moved to New York, and
Hmm.
now I'm living in Harlem, and yeah.
I
So,
would love, I would just like love to go there because it has a lot of, it's a lot of like music history, especially a lot of
man,
jazz music
come on up. It's a lot of it's a lot of different clubs open, and it's
Wow.
yeah, people are, like I said, New York is slowly opening up. It was surreal staying here during the pandemic because it's like Times
Mhm.
Square was shut down, like all of the attractions were shut down. So, really, I tell people all the time, the only people that was out was the motorcycle gangs, the and protesters, because they was going crazy last summer. So it was like motorcycle gangs and protesters and police. That was mainly the main people out for the most part because of the pandemic. So
Sure.
like I said, with things opening back up, it's been nice to see people out and about again, albeit annoying from time to time.
So, due to like the impact of COVID-19, a lot of lives was lost. The entertainment industry and live music itself was just completely demolished. Where do you see the near future of live entertainment going after the pandemic? Like, where do you see it?
Well, I think that we as musicians have to be okay adapting to this new normal. I think there was some good things that really happened um, out of the pandemic musically. I mean, for one, people got their home recording setups together. I know I did. I mean,
Hmm.
I didn't have a home recording setup before the pandemic, but as soon as the pandemic hit, it was like, all right, cool. I got to, that's another stream of income. So
Yeah.
I was gifted some recording equipment, and shout out to that person. They know who they are. I appreciate you. But I was gifted some recording equipment, and just after that, so I would say it's like home recordings. I think became a really big deal, and important to be able to share music with people who you couldn't. You normally you
Yeah.
would get in the studio to collaborate with, but we didn't
Yeah.
we didn't have that option. So I think there'll still be some home recording stuff happening, and honestly, it's been happening on like different scenes for years. R&B, pop stuff, they've been doing that for years. Jazz musicians are the only one catching up to that. Um, and I think live streams, I think, will be a little more popular now that we have evidence that they can work depending on the circumstances. And as far as live performances, um, I think probably the only thing that's different is that there'll be some more outdoor venues set up. I think, a lot of musicians. I'm really proud of a lot of musicians in New York who just saw the climate changing and reacted, and were changing things up as they needed, or adjusting, but just surviving, and not even thriving. Some of my good friends put on different events and were able to really thrive during the pandemic. When it seemed like it was not very hopeful and a little bleak. So I think more so than anything, more open performances, just because with the pandemic going on, it's being outside is the spread of COVID-19 is a lot less likely to happen, and and live streaming. I think that's kind of where the future is for the music. And like I said, a lot of musicians, I mean, they'll have a live stream and they'll just charge like, hey, give me, $25 or for this show. It's like, we put together this show, we have this live stream, you can buy a ticket here at this website, $25, and you get the link to the stream. So I think that's kind of where we're heading. A lot more makeshift spaces and different live streams. I think that's really the direction that live performances are heading, at least for the next 2 to 3 years. You know, or I mean, like, yeah, it could be sooner than that the world is just functioning again. But I would say, next 2 years it'll be in that direction.
You have a very realistic timeline. I figured that everything wouldn't really go back like it might start going back by next summer. That's how I look at it.
Right. Yeah.
Possibly.
I mean, listen, people ain't staying in the house this summer. It's over with
No,
for
they're
that.
not.
They,
They are not.
People are not staying in the house. That's why it's like I'm doing everything I can to protect myself, but I know the reality. And I mean, and realistically, with the government, I think they're stopping the pandemic assistance in August. So it's like, you got to figure out ways to get back to it. But
Yeah.
I do think that, just because, again, we're not sure about this. This is a new pandemic, and
Yes.
and,
I'm
and,
telling
and we
that.
and we don't know. We don't have all the answers. So, like I said, realistically, I would say probably 2023 is like
Yeah.
when it will feel like it will at least be the new normal, right? We've all been through this together. We've all experienced this together. We know people whose lives have been lost.
Yeah.
Some people famous, some people not. And I think by 2023 we'll be in this new normal, which is a mixture
Mhm.
of the world we knew before COVID, and hopefully some of the good practices that have come from the pandemic, with everybody having to adjust.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that, because also when you're a musician and when you're playing, it has a lot to do with traveling.
Exactly, exactly. I mean,
So much traveling.
yeah, like I said, the show that I'm doing in July in Chicago, I was, very glad that I got the call. But that's my first show that I'm getting flued out. I'm flying out for since this thing has happened. Since
Yeah,
March of
yeah.
2020. So I think, like I said, it's things are slowly opening back up. But I mean, with all the clubs there's a lot of clubs that's closed down because of this thing too. So with every club that's opening up, you have musicians who were on the calendar from a year ago that didn't get a chance to
Yeah.
perform. So there's only so many spots that everybody can fill up. So we got to be patient. We got to give grace, and we have to remember, most importantly, all of us can eat. All of us can eat. There's enough room at the table for everybody. I do believe that. I think with this pandemic, it's taught me more so than ever that musicians we have to be a community, and we have to
Yes.
really work together in order to utilize our strengths, whatever your strength is. Some people's strength is marketing. Some people's strength is playing the snot out of the instrument. Some people's strength is, social media. So it's like finding your strength and finding a way to utilize your strength in the best way possible, and finding people, like-minded people, who also do that as well. If we work together, I think that working together as a community, understanding, what people are getting paid, price points. Well, I just feel like, as musicians, we don't talk about that stuff enough. You know.
We don't. We really, really
Yeah.
don't. And it's funny that pressure pressure breaks adaptability, and we find different ways to work with each other. And like you said, a lot of good outcomes came out. But that leads me into the next question I was going to ask you. Do you have any, what advice would you give to a up and coming artist or up and coming jazz artist or artist about, like music industry?
The advice that I think about in this moment that I would give to somebody who's thinking about doing music is to find a stream of income that where you don't have to worry about music being your primary source of income.
Mm,
Um,
that's really good.
whether it be, the stock market or just knowing, like, really understanding money and how it works. Because if you're doing this thing, like as we found out, income is not guaranteed. You have a certain idea of what you might make, but you get the call as you get the call, and you don't want to be taking any calls that you get just because you have no choice. I'm trying to personally get to a point where it's like I'm only taking calls of gigs that I want to do, and not gigs
Mm,
that it's like, well, this $100 to cover for the week, or this $200. It's like, you know, I want to,
sure.
I want to do gigs that really push me musically and take me to another place. So that would be my advice. Just, if, like, it's not impossible. It's not this big thing that cats should be scared of. But I think it's important to be aware of what you could potentially make on the low end and what you could potentially make on the high end. I feel like people get into the music game or to the music industry, and it's like we only think about what we can make on the high end, and we're not thinking about the ways that things, like I said, or a pandemic that cancels all of your gigs. So we don't think of those type of things. So it's just really important to understand money, understand how it works, make sure you're saving, make sure that you saving for a retirement account. Like actually putting money towards your retirement, because again, you can play for a very long time. It's not like athletics where you have a shelf life. But I think it's important to just plan ahead. You got to be thinking steps ahead, especially with something where it's on you to really make it happen. So
Definitely. I think that was very, very good advice, especially from someone from someone like you that has gigged, has been with many people, um, from your neighborhood, famous and everything. So definitely, I think that's some really good advice. So could you also tell me a little bit about Singer Meets Saxophonist?
yeah, yeah. I could tell you. So Singer Me Saxophonist was a series that I was doing from 2014. Yeah, I think I started it in 2014. And again, we talked about adaptability. So when uh, I got to New York. I wasn't working with anybody. I mean, I knew my homie Willem Dellisford. Shout out to Willem Dellisford. Um, but I was just here for school, honestly. I wasn't really here. Some cats come like, I'm gonna be the next superstar. I came to study with Antonio Hart at Queens. I was just here to learn. But I was like, man, I should start something. It was funny. Me and Willem were having a talk, and he was just talking about how he really enjoyed working with singers because he was learning all these different tunes and these different keys, and learning a bunch of tunes that necessarily musicians wouldn't call on the bandstand. Not musicians, but instrumentalists rather. Singers are musicians too. All right. So
Yes.
so
Thank you for speaking for us.
I got you. I got you. Singer me saxophonist. You know what I'm saying? I can speak for y'all. Nah. But yeah. So it was this spot. Shout out to Therapy Wine Bar in Brooklyn. It was around the corner from my house, and it was a bar. They didn't have music. I guess they had a couple of things that just didn't go great, so they kind of canceled music. And I just walked in. I talked with the owner. We got cool. I was like, yo, I think it would be dope to do a series. And so he gave me the green light. You know, it paid peanuts. It did not pay great, but I would tell people like, listen, it doesn't pay great, you know, blah 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 blah. But you know, people held it down for me, man. I had a band that would come out and travel it and do the gig, a little organ trio, and then you know, different singers would come and work with me when I wasn't really, I didn't have a name or anything like that. You know, it was just like, hey, you sound good. Would you want to do this gig in Brooklyn? You know, and yeah, man, I caught a lot of people and a lot of incredible artists. You know, Emily Braden is the person that comes to mind. Charles Turner, who I still work with to this day. Melanie Charles had been through the series. You know, so it was like all of these different singers that would just come out and do the series. Antoinette Montague, like the list goes on. And so eventually that spot was kind of just, they just ran out, you know, they ran out of money. Like, you know, it was like, we just don't have, we got to kind of cut costs for the band and blah, blah, blah. I was like, cool. But like I said, you know, I'm always about maintaining relationships. So it was, you know, it was totally cool. Like I totally understand. Like I said, shout out to Therapy Wine Bar. You know, being the owner still cool to this day. Like he's just a cool brother. So that, you know, that was the series for a little bit. And then in 2016, I introduced the series to Minton's Playhouse in Harlem, and they thought it was a dope idea. So I was doing Sunday nights at Minton's from 2017 until August of 2019, and I was doing the series there. And like I said, just, you know, I got to work with more incredible artists. Buyo Satosh, I know Jasmine Horn came through and sang a little bit, you know, and all of, you know, and so it turned into that. Not only wasn't like the singers were featured, but the second set, we would open it up for other musicians to come in. So like my boy Corey A. Wallace would come through a lot, Brent Burkhead would come through a lot, all of these great incredible artists, and you know, we would all just work together, play together, hang out afterwards. You know, it was called Glory Sundays. So we would do Minton's Playhouse from like 7 to 10, and then we would head over to Smoke Jazz Club where my boy Willem was running a session, and that'd be from 11 to whenever we went home. You know, and yeah, man. So Singing Me Sax, it really holds a special place to me because it was, you know, it was my brainchild. One, two, I felt like I was able to give a lot of singers a look that wouldn't normally have gotten a look in different circumstances, and three, most importantly, just continue to learn. I was able to learn a lot of music that I, you know, from different vocalists or their original music. Sometimes we would perform. And shout out to Jonathan Edward Thomas, Sharif Zabin, Curtis Graham, Noah Sad. They're my dudes, man. They held me down, especially when it was paying peanuts. And then when I got to Minton's, I was able to bump them up a little bit. You know, we was making a nice little amount of change, especially for a Sunday. So, you know,
Wow.
yeah, it was cool. And I hope that I'm able to bring that series back again because I you know, people really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed running it. So.
Wow, wow. So hopefully in the near future and in some way, shape, or form that I will work with you or I will
Oh,
actually get to meet you.
yeah, a person,
Hopefully.
right? We, you know,
Yes, yeah.
we all meeting virtually, you know. No,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Send me your stuff, man. Send me, you know, I'm always down. If you got a home studio, you can send me the stuff. I got my home set up. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Awesome. Awesome. So do you have in fact, if you had the chance to work with any artist, who would you want to work with?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Or
Um,
yeah.
if I had the chance to work with any artist, well, I love Anderson .Paak. Uh, I love
Oh,
Anderson.
I think.
Yeah, I love Anderson .Paak. I love Kendrick Lamar. Um,
Mhm.
man, I mean, it's so many artists that I haven't worked with yet that I would love to work with in some way, shape, or form. Um, Joe Ross is super dope. Isaiah Sharkey, we've played in a lot of different scenarios together, but I would love to put him on something, or like on one of my tracks. Um, man,
It's
Nas,
just a lot of people, right?
yeah,
Oh,
like I said, the list goes on. I mean, and, Nas for sure. I would love to work with Sir. Um,
oh my, yeah, I would. You know what? The artists that you're picking, I know, like Nas, he did a song called "Bridging the Gap" with his father Oludara,
yeah,
and actually Kendrick Lamar, he made a song called "All Right" that has like a huge saxophone piece in it.
shout out to Terrence Martin. That's my man. He was playing all over that track.
Yeah, and I was like, dang, man, this make me think of like, ooh, like Mo Better Blues and like, yeah, like Harlem and all that. So that you have some pretty good artists
Yeah,
that you're picking.
yeah. I like
They're
I
really
said,
good.
I know there's some more cats, but specifically those names, at least in the
I was like,
moment.
this is,
Oh, Lucky
yeah.
Day. I would love to work with Lucky Day, man.
Oh my God,
Lucky
yes,
Day.
yeah.
That boy is a problem. I love that cat.
I,
So
I I love his music too.
yeah, yeah, for
Really
sure.
awesome. He did a remix with, I think her name is Alex Isley and
Yes,
Masego.
yes,
And I played that so many times.
yeah.
So yeah, I could see, and Sarah, I could see all that. In fact, I could see you on all of those tracks. So you really picked some really good
Yeah.
people to
I try
collaborate
to I
with.
try to be versatile so I can get all the calls.
Yeah,
I play rock too. I play it all. So yeah.
it's so, something I noticed, like with newer music. I know, like when people think about jazz and stuff, jazz has so much to do with like African American history. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
And a lot of a lot of jazz actually is like mixed into like neo soul, and how you're getting these sounds and stuff like that, or how they're getting these unique sounding chords. A lot of that is in there with jazz and R&B.
Hmm.
So I think that those are, you pick some good people.
Well, I mean, the thing about it, Black American music, as I like to call it. Shout out
Hmm.
to Nicholas Payton. But jazz swing, all of that stuff, it comes from the gospel. It comes from African rhythms, gospel,
Yes.
and the blues. So all of
Hmm.
those things are predecessors to everything that we've been hearing, and it's a natural progression. If you just listen to the lineage of the music, even in the '50s when rock and roll was coming out, it was just a trade off of the blues that had been
Hmm.
happening. So it's like,
Hmm.
all of this is a natural progression of the music. So when I
Yeah.
hear something like Sir, or I hear something like Kendrick Lamar, it has as much resonance to me as something from John Coltrane or something from Miles Davis, because it's all a part of the lineage and the history of Black America. Our struggle, our pain, our joy, all of those things are mixed into and come from jazz music. Jazz music and hip hop are really first cousins. They
Yes.
start, bebop was started because as a response to Benny Goodman and the whitening of swing music. So
Yeah.
bebop was a response to that. Hip hop was a response to Black people just not feeling heard in their communities. And so
Yeah.
it's like they're rapping
Absolutely.
about stuff that they see in their communities. And
Yeah.
and then people will go, well, this sounds violent, terrible. It's like, because it is terrible.
It's reality. Yeah, it's
you know,
reality.
we can't, people don't like to deal in the truth sometimes.
Yes.
I feel like
Yes.
the truth scares people, and we got to get out of that bag. It's like, this is the reality of the situation. Now let's work on fixing it. It doesn't have to stay this
Yes.
way. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? It doesn't have to stay
Yeah.
this way, but this is the reality that we're in now.
It
So
has to be. It definitely has to be addressed.
yeah,
I
so
think.
but like I said, jazz is the link to everything we're hearing now is based off of what we've heard in the past, and it
Yes,
would
it
it
is.
would be the key to what we hear in the future.
It definitely is. I'm glad like you brought up some of those topics. So this is the time in the show when I ask, do you have any questions for me?
Do I have any questions for you? How long? Man, how long you been doing interviews?
So I have a little story, but before I talk about that, I do want to talk about like my mom and her like my mom and and her family like went to school with a lot of like musicians.
Hmm.
Like my mom goes to school with Russell Tompkins from the Stylistics. Her sister went to school with Tammy Terrell,
Okay.
and my mom and her whole family live next door to Lee Morgan, the
Wow. Okay.
legendary Philadelphia jazz trumpeter.
Yeah. I mean,
When she was a kid,
legendary trumpeter. Yeah.
period.
Yeah. Period. You know, that's real.
And I cannot wait till they make something. I can't wait till like I looked at the documentary on Netflix, but I was telling my mom that I make up fantasy movies and casts
Hmm.
for like jazz biographies, like people do with fantasy football.
Hmm. I think. Well,
So
I think. Doesn't Lee Morgan? Isn't there a documentary on Netflix with Lee?
there's a documentary, right? But I was telling when I had interviewed Gerald Veasley, I was telling him that I feel like they could like have different like rappers of today play like the people of then, play the people of then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I see what you're saying. So you
Yeah.
taking the new artist and playing. Okay,
Hmm.
got you. Okay, that could be about. I mean, you know, they released the Wu Tang. There's a Wu Tang
Yeah.
show. I don't know what, but it's like a series on Wu
Yes.
Tang. I mean, you got Joey Badass is one of the characters. Davies, you know, so
Yes, I love David.
it's not impossible. You know,
Yeah.
it's definitely
Yeah.
not.
Well, let me get back to the question about me, how when I made like the show. So in 2018, I graduate from Community College of Philadelphia with a vocal performance degree.
Uh-huh.
After that, shortly after that, I get accepted in three area colleges in Philadelphia: U of A, Temple University, and University of Arts for a Bachelor of Music vocal performance. I go to Temple. I go there for music education. I only stayed in there for 2 weeks. I was like, yeah, I got to look at stuff for vocal performance. So I get accepted inside of the vocal performance jazz program, stay there for 2.5 semesters, and then I leave to pursue my degree. I mean, left to pursue my vocal career. And I was supposed to get um, a recording. I was supposed to be on a label. A label told me they were interested in me, told me to go make music, and for 11 months. And then after that, I came back with the music, found out that I wasn't going to, they said they were no longer interested in me. So after that, fast forward, that was all 2019. Fast forward to 2020, I had a new job. Pandemic hits. Oh, yeah, pandemic hits. I had to go through that. Some family issues happened. Some family members passed away. And then coming into 2021, I said, why am I seeing all of this stuff online, right? That has not a lot of substance to it. There are so many influential independent artists and mainstream artists that I don't see. No one is interviewing them and asking them these questions.
Mm.
Jazz artists, hip hop artists, restaurant owners, bar owners, all these people that lost different businesses and that are interesting and that are making milestones, no one's interviewing them. So that's when I started the Indie Spotlight in the Indie Spotlight Special Edition in February 2021.
Okay, nice,
So
nice.
that was it.
Congratulations. Again,
Thanks.
it's just a testament to adaptability. You know, it's like that. What you saw something, you saw there wasn't really a market for it, and you adjusted. And you know, it's the it's the beauty of being human. You know, we're able to adjust quickly to things on the fly. So, congrats to you on that. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, you know, I didn't really set up for a lot of questions. I didn't, you haven't been up to New York yet? I should start there.
What you said?
You haven't been up here to New York yet?
I've only been to New Jersey. I've never been to Chicago. I've never been to New York night.
Tisk, tisk, tisk. You gotta come up to New York, man. You gotta come hang out.
That's what I said. I want to. If I go, like I do want to look at a lot of like the history and stuff like that. And I think both of the cities are very interesting. And I like a lot of jazz music. But I wish I could see you with like possibly like playing with Wayne Shorter.
See me playing with Wayne Shorter?
Yeah.
Well, you know, he plays tenor sax, and I play. Usually sax players aren't on the same gig, but it could be a big band situation or something like that. It's not. It is definitely not. It's not impossible.
Okay.
For sure. It is not impossible, but yeah, that would be. I would love to play with Wayne too. I would love to just talk to him, like, just to pick his brain about what was it like working with Miles, and all of that.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was like,
And his
it's just
composition,
like,
Wayne Shorter has the best, some of the best. He's such an incredible writer, man. He's such an incredible writer, and he's added so much to the lineage of this music, man. Not just of jazz, but of music in general. With his work with the Weather Report as well. I mean, just Wayne, man, what a cat. What a life. What a life.
so I was just like, I hope like I was like, I need to. You know what else I would like? I wish I could see more of. It's like these. I can't think of the name of them. They're like these parties they throw. They're like themed, possibly like Roaring 20s or 30s.
Oh yeah,
Like jazz and stuff. I would love to see
like a
that.
Great Gatsby theme party or something.
Yeah, for like jazz and like when they had like Harlem Renaissance times and stuff like that. I would love to like see that. I would love to just like if I could find an event like that, like in New York or Chicago, a jazz like event or any kind of event that's like that, I would like to go there. So I'm going to be probably like direct messaging you to ask you about the different events.
I'm not. Before you do that, I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not sure. I played. I don't even want to hold you and lie to you. I played a couple of those joints, but I wouldn't know. But I mean, New York has a really good, a great Lindy Hop scene. I know that Chicago also has a very good traditional scene as well,
hmm
and also gypsy jazz as well. But
Oh yeah, yeah.
I didn't really hit it that much in Chicago on that scene. When I got to New York, I started working more with different trad bands and stuff like that, which was also a different experience because it's like you can't just play your bebop. You got to really dig into the language of the 30s and the 20s and the 30s. So it's a very interesting but fun challenge. Yeah.
So how long have you been playing sax and how long have you been doing like your how many albums have you made also?
Got you. So I've as a leader, I've made one album, the one in 2012.
Wow.
I am working on releasing the next one. I had a whole game plan set, and then the pandemic hit.
Sure.
And I mean, something always happens. Things. What I'm
Yeah.
learning is life is going to happen. So you just got to do what you got to do, and
Mhm.
hope. So it's I do plan to release some works this year. I'm working currently on a mixtape that I plan to release. I have a live album that I might release only for Patreon, at least for like a month or a couple months. And then I also have a CD that I recorded late 2018 that I plan to release. So I got a couple things in the works that I'm working out. Um, what was it? Wait. Oh, how? Okay. How many records how long I've been playing and how many records? So I've been a professional musician since 2007.
Wow.
I started in Chicago, yeah, and I started at the Velvet Lounge. Shout out to all the cats at the Velvet, but I started playing at the Velvet Lounge regularly, and that's when I would say my career as a professional musician started. Like when you had to pay to hear me. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Wow.
So
Wow. I think that's fine with the album like that I think that's fine like you have one album out because sometimes I really feel like less is more as long as it's quality.
it's at the time it was the best effort that I could do. So I felt really good about it, but it's definitely time for me to
Time for
put
another one.
it's time for another one. Like I have compositions that like I have so many compositions, but I just haven't been able to really which is and I'm very blessed that people call me to work with their groups. I work with several different groups and several different bands. So I'm very blessed on that front. But it's I really like having my voice and being able to write music. So it's time to put out something else. Yeah.
Great, great.
Yeah.
So before I wrap up the interview, is there any last things that you want to talk about or say?
Um. No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I would talk about. Everybody stay safe. We're be safe. I appreciate anybody who
Oh, I'm sorry. Someone have a question.
shot. Hey,
When do
what's
you?
what's up, Leonard?
Oh,
Shout out to Leonard. What's up, man? Uh, okay, I'll read this one.
sure.
When do you think is a good time to release a record? Shoot, I ain't released one, so I. But I can tell you, I think just according to what I've seen the blueprint of, you put out a single first. You put out your single. You promote the record, and then you drop the record with a little bit of anticipation. So I guess I would say it just depends on what you're going for. Some people like to do like like an end of the quarter release when there's not as many releases. Some people like to do summer releases where it's like all the bangers come out in summer. So or a first quarter release. It just really depends on what type of vibe you're going for, and and the promo to make sure that it gets to the right ears. You know. So I don't necessarily think it's ever a bad time to release music, but I do think you need to have a game plan when you release it, because you don't want just you and your family members to hear it. You want other people to hear it. So never a bad time to release, but you should have a game plan if you plan to release. That would be my answer.
Awesome. And one more question. What do you think? So I always say like a lot of streaming platforms are for advertisement mostly only
Yeah.
because they don't really pay very much during streams, or I used to call them the record company reincarnated. But what do you how do you like what distribution platforms do you use, or if you use any, and how do you feel about them?
Well, I mean, shout out to Bandcamp, man. I thought that the work that they did with Bandcamp Fridays was awesome. I know they've still been doing once a month where they give 10%, or I mean, I'm sorry, 100% of the proceeds will go to the artist.
Wow.
So shout out to Bandcamp. I know they've been doing some great work. Some people are very some people are against streaming. I'm kind of in the I'm in I'm in the school of thought that if if you can stream my album and that's the way you can get to it, then more power to you.
Yes.
That's kind of my stream of thought. Again, the Patreon page is for people. That's for people who really want to support what I'm doing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's like, the streaming, and I don't necessarily have a problem with. I would say, again, it depends on your game plan, because some people like to get on the Spotify list and stuff like that, and you got to really, you got to work and make sure that you're not, spending too much money trying to get exposed. You see what I mean? Like putting all your
Yeah.
money into, like, or if you give me, a couple hundred, I'll put you on this like really popular Spotify playlist. And it's
Yes.
like, well, again, what is that going to do if you get, fractions of a penny on a dollar for each stream? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm definitely with that.
I'm not against streaming at all. I think that it's helped in some ways, but
Hmm.
again, it's always ways to improve. So I would just say, most importantly, making sure that whatever strategy you go with, you have a game plan to make sure that your vision and your dream can come through, and that it gets to as many people as possible.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I agree with all of that.
Yeah.
So I want to say thank you for everyone who watched. And I also want to tell you thank you, Christopher McBride, for coming through and talking to me and spending time with me out of your busy schedule
Oh
or
man.
whatever it is that you do.
She's like, no, I mean, again, I'm honored that you asked me. I saw some of the roster that you had had before and have coming up. So I'm grateful that you asked me, and glad to be a part. And yeah, I appreciate you sitting down and talking with me. When send me some music, and I would love to check it out and
Awesome.
hear what you're doing. Because I know you're doing other stuff besides interviews. So definitely.
Yeah, I haven't went back in and worked on a lot of music for a while because a lot of other things, like a lot of stuff with the pandemic and working and stuff was happening. But it's definitely something I want to revisit. So I want to thank you and thank everyone. And I want to let you know to have a great night and have a good evening.
Hey, everybody, thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on, and hope to talk soon. I'll hit you
You
when the
too.
record comes out so you can bring me back.
Okay, awesome.
All right.
Have a good night. Bye.
All right.